financial markets, cryptocurrency, gold and silver, world news.
Fair to say you simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills. That actually increases the money supply.
Financial turmoil explained.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Friday, the 3rd of June, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, let's get started. Let's open up the charts right here. Here's the first thing I want to talk about is, the average consumer, the average person out there in, let's say, the United States, but also in places like Great Britain and, Australia and everything, the average person out there here in the West, every time they drive up to the pumps, they see this sticker on there. It says, I did that. We're watching fuel prices go up, but for the most part, an awful lot of people, I'm going to say here in North America, and in the United States especially, they don't see it yet, what's happening. Yeah, sure, they're paying a little bit more for gas. Yeah, a little bit more for groceries. But an awful lot of people just don't see it, what's happening. The decay and collapse of an empire is happening right now. And, this does not inspire confidence. When they see things like that sticker, they see that more than a lot of people don't look, they don't focus on the news and stuff, And so, what do we got going on? Well, over in Russia right now, they said they were going to have targeted sanctions against Russia. Targeted. Well, what that basically means is when you target something, you're supposed to hit the target. Well, Russia's got workarounds. They've got workarounds. But somehow it's boomeranged back over here to the West. And so who's really suffering the most? Us. We're the guys that are getting the hit. We're taking the hit. So somehow, could I call it a boomerang effect or something? Russia, these targeted sanctions, they found workarounds. And over here, though, where the people are getting hit. We're getting hit with all this, and we're getting completely, and it's going to start to show up for the average person out there. Awareness. This is one of the things that I'm worried about now. In the next couple months is awareness in the general population. It's going to go because it's going to start to get to be absurd. And this awareness is going to start to come in. Of the people, average people out there, what's going on. They're going to start to wake up and say, hey, you know what? Something's wrong here. Gas prices, because we've been warned by Jamie Dimon. And he has said that we're heading toward an economic hurricane. And this is true. It's directly ahead of us. And it's not just an economic hurricane. This is the collapse of an empire. This is how empires collapse. And once it really starts to get going, there's no turning back because they're caught in a trap right now. Our money is corrupted. And this is one of the biggest things out there is the fact that the Fed is trapped now, completely trapped. They can't turn toward inflation. They can't turn toward deflation. They're already headed toward deflation, but they can't turn back now at this point. So at a certain point in the very near future, everything's starting to come unraveled in the system. You see, during the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, it was a totally different situation back then. We weren't into this technological business of everybody using digital this and digital that, and everything's done by computer and everything's online now. This is all a bunch of CRAP because it takes us away from productivity, and also it takes us, how can this work? Everybody is going to work online? Who's going to do real work? If everybody's working in a virtual reality, who's going to do the menial labor and things that we need to live? If everybody's getting paid by the government on either on UBI or they're working online, how does this even function, a system like that? With so many people now that do work online, how does the system even function? Who cleans out your septic tank? You know? Who does the real work? Who makes things? Who gets the products to the store and stuff? Less and less people do. Everybody's enamored and saying, well, I can make more money, opening up a YouTube channel or whatever and make money from your sofa. You know? This whole thing and the universal basic income, just send people a check. They don't have to work anymore. Everybody's going to be rich in the entire world. It doesn't work like that. The system doesn't work like that. We've built this system. I'm talking about humanity. As in we, all the people. We built this system and we structured it over thousands of years. And if you get a few malfeasant idiots that actually start to tear this system apart because of their stupidity, then who's going to put this system back together again? Because it took thousands of years to build it. It's structured. If you tear that structure apart and we fall into chaos, or if chaos breaks out to a certain point where it can't be put back in the box any longer, yeah, they've been maintaining control up till now. But at a certain point, if chaos breaks out, how do you bring control back to a system that's been structured over thousands of years and put in place? You just can't snap your fingers and make everything go back to normal again. This is like an expensive Ming vase that's sitting on a shelf over there, and maybe it's worth $10 million. And you get some idiot that comes in the room and knocks it down, that falls on the floor and shatters into a million little pieces. And he says, don't worry, I can put this back together again. I got some super glue. I'm sorry, but it doesn't work that way. And that's the way the system's been built over thousands of years, slowly structured. And then the idiots come along in 1913 and they put us into a Ponzi scheme system that has it's like a ticking time bomb. Tick, 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 tick toward the end. The end is when the Ponzi scheme gets to a certain point where you can't get new suckers in. I mean, that's how Ponzi schemes work. They rely upon the greater fool theory. And there comes a point where you can't get the greater fool. There is no greater fool anymore. Because the whole thing becomes apparent. And that's what I'm talking about in the next couple months, next few months. This might start to become apparent to all. All the people out there who, at this point, they don't realize where it's coming from. And then they might start to realize, how do you put the system back together? Let's take a look at the silver price today. It's going down 19 cents, $22.07, but it is maintaining above $22, so that's important. Let's take a look at gold. Gold's down $7.60 at 1860.90. This whole system is being run in war. There's another thing too. How do you tell what's going on with the war over there? You want to know how I tell? You cannot trust the propaganda on both sides. So we got two sides here. We got East and West. We got the East, and they got their propaganda, and they're telling one totally different story from the West. And the West has got their propaganda, and they're telling a totally different story from the East of what's going on with this war. So how do you get accurate information? Well, it's like this. You got to do your own investigation. You got to do your own detective work. And I'll tell you what I've noticed with this war, and what I think is about 20% of Ukraine has been taken over by the Russians in the eastern side of Ukraine. And for weeks now, I haven't seen any significant movement in those lines. What they call lines. That's the edge of where the war is, the front line, what they call the front line of the war. I haven't seen any significant movement for weeks between Russia and Ukraine. But then in the past week or so, I've been seeing a little bit of movement by the Russians. They've been taking a little bit of ground. So what that would point toward, it would point toward more or less a stalemate, okay? And it would point toward the Russians slightly getting the upper hand, slightly, very, very slightly though. That's what it would point toward. Also, there's another thing to consider, that the administration over here in the West has said, hey, we're not going to send Ukraine any missiles that can go fly inside Russia and they can attack Russia with. They said they're not going to do it. And then not very long later, then they said, yeah, we are going to do it. Well, what will create that change? That's a sea change. You know, that's a 180-degree shift. What would create that shift from deciding, no, we're not going to send because that's a major, it could cause a major escalation, and to saying, okay, yeah, we're going to do it? Well, I'll tell you what I think. What I think what would cause that change is they're getting concerned that Russia is getting the upper hand. And, you know, here's another thing, guys. On both sides, on the east and then on the west, we've seen troops that are just basically flinging their hands up in the air and saying, I don't feel like fighting anymore. Why are we doing this? You see, in the old days, you know, they used to be able to start a war and men would fight to the death. And they used to have a saying during World War II. This is what they told the men that were fighting. They says, yours is not to question why. Yours is to do or die. Because the last thing that they want soldiers to do is question orders. That's why they run them through boot camp and they try to drill they call it drill sergeant. He tried to drill obedience into their brain so that they got complete blind obedience. You say to the soldier, the drill sergeant says to the soldier, see that cliff there, soldier? See those rocks down below? Those sharp-looking rocks down there 200 feet down below the cliff. Jump off the cliff, soldier. Yes, sir, yes, sir. And he jumps off the cliff. That's the kind of obedience they want. They want them to be total morons, but to be totally obedient morons. That's what they want. And this is what they need. This is what they need to keep the world fighting. They need to be able to stand up there on their ivory tower and sitting on their velvet cushion, their red velvet cushion, and put their arm up just like the Emperor of Rome and say, fight! And everybody goes out there and they all kill one another. Without any questions, complete blind obedience. But, you know, humanity is starting to catch on. So some of these soldiers are starting to catch on. They're starting to say, hey, you know what? You remember what they used to tell us back during World War II? Yours is not to question why. Yours is to do or die. Well, I'm questioning why. That's it. They don't have an answer for that. That's the problem. They don't have an answer for why. If you ask why, that's why they say, don't question why. Because if you ask why, well, it comes back on them, because they are the ones who start the war. They're the ones that tell you to fight. And they're all the same. Doesn't matter what country you're in. They're all the same. They're all a bunch of greedy, hungry for power. They're the worst things. They're the worst scum on earth. It's the ones that make their way into power. They are a bunch of psychopaths. But we're willing to die for them? We're not dying. You think you're dying for your country? By being shipped for 6 weeks halfway around the world to the other side of the world? There's no threat to your country. To your actual country. Except for these weapons of mass destruction that they build, and that's all part of them. They're the ones who ordered the construction of all these weapons of mass destruction that can go halfway around the world. You know? That is a threat to the country. But those weapons wouldn't even be there, except for these same guys, these bunch of psychopaths out there, who said we want to build the biggest, most powerful weapon that can blow the entire world up. But it's not us, the people. We've never been involved in this, and this is all part of it too. It's not just about power. They enrich themselves off of this. This is how they get fat and rich. Some of the richest men on earth are the men who are in charge out there. And they think all of us are a bunch of dumb slaves. Dumb slaves, that's what we are. Dumb slaves because we never catch on to them. But see, now what's happening is some of the soldiers on both sides, soldiers in Ukraine, soldiers on the Russian side too, are saying, hey, you know what? What's all this about? You know? They're questioning it. And they're saying, why? Why? That's the big question that they do not want you to ask, is why? Why should we listen to a bunch of psychopaths who tell us what to do? But on the other side of that, they've very smartly, since 1913 till now, arranged a monetary system, and this is the cage. This is the cage they got all of us in, locked inside a cage like we're a bunch of animals, and they got the key. And they can turn the screw anytime they want to on us, using the monetary system. And so they've basically made us so that we're unproductive, and this is the thing. Humanity has to get back to productivity. So that instead of just sitting online and doing your work online, you're out there in your garden and you're actually got an actual real hoe, and you're really hoeing the earth, you know, and planting seeds in the earth. And you can take pride in something you do rather than just everything being in the cyberspace. How can you take pride in your work if it's all in cyberspace? It's not real in the real world. That's what they want to do. They want to move all of us, in the end, move us all into cyberspace, move our brains into cyberspace. And we won't even be allowed to be in this real world and see the real world for what it really is. One a day when your children are born, and the first thing they do is they hook them up to a big wire and download them into the internet, where they'll spend the rest of their lives never seeing the real world, never breathing in some fresh air and being able to go out and pick a flower or grow some fruit and for themselves and see the real world for what the real world is. And this is because we're giving our allegiance to a bunch of psychopaths. Anyway, had to have that rant, guys. Cryptocurrency today. What we're looking at is 1221, and we're looking at 29,611. So crypto's not really going anywhere. It's just bouncing around 30,000 for Bitcoin. 29,611. Dow Jones today. She's off 194 points as of a few minutes ago, but I got to refresh the page. Down 319. So, see, I told you guys that the volatility is ready to come back. I told you yesterday. This volatility is going to remain now until, as we progress into these Fed hiking rates, and the Fed being tight. And the Fed's going to be tight until they smash the market, until they start to actually destroy the economy. Then they're going to say, oh, I did that. It's another big I did that coming. You know? Afterwards. I can see it right now. They need to stop all this nonsense and hold the course. That's what they need to do. And then the system will stay stable for longer. But all they're doing is they're not getting rid of inflation. All they're doing is wrecking the economy. Can't they see that? I can see that. No, they don't want to see that. They don't want to see that. They want to do what they want to do. It's always that way with them. 317 points down on the Dow. And then afterwards, then they'll come out. But see, this enriches them. Everything's about money. Everything's about making them rich and powerful. and keeping them in office. You know? And they're just going to keep going and squeezing the people and squeezing the people and squeezing the people harder and harder. What I mean by squeezing the people is when you get your money at the first of the month, it's running out faster and faster before the end of the month. In other words, it used to last you till the end of the month. It's going to, right now, it probably lasts you 3 weeks. Soon it's only going to last you 2 weeks. And then soon after that, it's only going to last you a week, and you're going to be out of money. And what do you do those 3 weeks waiting for your paycheck till the end of the month when you got no money left? That's going to feel good. That's going to make you really happy. And you know what? All these psychopaths out there who are running the system, they can say, I did that to you, and they're going to squeeze you tighter and tighter until you screech ouch. My question is, when are the people going to squeal ouch? How tight can you squeeze them before they squeal ouch? You know, look at the volatility. Wasn't it just down 300 and something? Now it's 262. Just moving around like a pinball machine. The Dow Jones. Take a look at oil today, 117. Move index. Oh, look at that price of oil. Look at that price of oil. Oh my gosh. This is an oil-based economy. They're trying to move suddenly into a renewable resource type economy from an oil-based economy, but a sudden move like that is everything is all your cars. Most people out there, what your car out there, does it have a gasoline engine or is it electric? Most people has and even if the electric cars, even if everybody had an electric car, they've already told us the grid's fried. Where are you going to get to charge? How are you going to charge it? The grid's fried. Basically, it's not providing enough power now because they've taken all the coal-fired plants off the grid and stuff that were producing power, and they're running out of water out in the west, and the hydro ain't going to work out there. So how are you going to charge your electric car? How are you going to charge it? What are you going to charge it with? With a solar panel? You know, and I mean, we're running out of resources. Because they're running us out of resources, because they're saying, no, we don't want those resources. I know they're the resources we've used for 1,000 years to build this society with, but we're not going to use those anymore. So what are we going to use then? You know? They haven't got an answer for that because they're moving too quick. It's just everything they want it now. They want to do it now the way they want to do it. Not the way the people want to do it, but the way they want to do it. It's all about them. Because they're a bunch of psychopaths, like I told you before. And it's all about them, you know? Not about us, not about how much. They don't care how much we have to suffer. And as long as we'll take it, as long as we'll sit back here and we'll say, hey, you know, yeah, sure, do it to us. We'll bend over for you. You can do it to us all you want. As long as we're in that attitude, well, they're gonna take advantage of that. They're gonna take advantage of us to the full extent that they can. Because, you know, I'm not gonna say it again, they're a bunch of psychopaths. Anyway, listen, guys. I mean, I might as well laugh as cry. You know the old saying, no sense crying over spilt milk. How did these people get in office in the first place? You know, can't we see through and see a good man for what a good man is? Can't we see through and see what an evil, cunning man that's trying to get in office is? Can't we see the difference? We're going to have to start seeing the difference. We're going to have to start looking and saying, hey, don't just elect any willy-nilly person that they throw in front of us. They throw in front of us, by the way. And this is why I'm not for either political party, because behind the scenes, they're hand-picking them for us, and they only pick psychopaths. And they say, here, you got a choice. You can vote on this side over here for a psychopath, or you can vote on that side over there for another psychopath. So we have to pick who's the biggest psychopath that we want to run an office. The whole system's corrupt, and that's why it's going down. It's sinking. It's sinking. The Titanic is sinking right now, guys. You got, right now, what we're doing is we're running around on deck looking for life preservers. That's all we can do. They've got us down to that point. Bonds and rates today. Oh, the MOVE index, 99.27. Bonds and rates today, we're looking at rising yields, but not significantly. The U.S. 10 years at 2.94 and the U.S. 30 years at 3.11. Looking at about 3 or 4 basis points there on that. And the U.S. dollar index to finish the show is at 102.04. I don't really have the answers to all of this because there is no answer. We are in the bus. We're all in the back of the bus. We've got some sort of a monkey at the driver's seat, and we're headed toward the cliff. And we've got enough momentum where even if the brakes were slammed on right now, we'd slide to the edge and then fall off the edge of the cliff anyway. And so right now we have to take it to a personal level. You have to say to yourself, I want to survive all this crap. What's the best way I can do that? And so you have to prepare on a personal level now, because the system is so corrupt and nobody out there has got the key to straighten it at this point. So we have to think on a personal level, what can I do to help me get through this mess? Me and my family to get through this mess and make it to the other side whole, rather than being torn to pieces by this coming financial hurricane, that they are putting us through. The world hasn't changed. The sun still rises, in the morning and sets. Still rises and sets the sun. Nothing's really changed. What's changed, the big changes that are being made, are being caused by these people who are in charge. They are sinking our ship because they are so corrupt and irresponsible, and they're a bunch of psychopaths, and they sit around back rooms together talking about how they can screw us over. And so, they're able to figure it out because they're working together. Humanity out here on this side of the fence, they haven't really figured it out yet. This is like, it's going to come down to every man for himself. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll get you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.